Hello, my name is Ginger Tree Studio, you can call me Vinny, and welcome to my channel. I would consider myself an artist, and like most artists, I have a lot of original characters I like to draw. A lot of these characters I made up years ago, and I haven't really touched them since. This is especially true for some of the characters I made in like early middle school, so today I'm going to be redesigning 3 of the characters I think I made and drew most often in the 6th grade, and hopefully see some improvements in their designs. The first character I'm starting off with is named Dove Bennett. I'm gonna be honest, I could not remember this character's name for the life of me when I was originally going through my sketchbooks, but I did eventually find her first name on like some random page, but I ended up just having to make up a new last name for her. In Dove Bennett's world, creatures like vampires, centaurs, elves do exist, but unfortunately humans and magical creatures don't really like each other and rarely interact. Humans are somehow the dominant species, despite how much weaker they are than most of these creatures, and live relatively normal lives. I'm thinking that some of these humans could have magical abilities like witches, but it may be frowned upon because humans distrust towards magical species, but that is still just a thought I have. That information will become important later, but for now I'm just going to discuss some of my design choices for Dove. In the original version of this story, Dove did not have that much of a personality, besides the fact that she's like a businesswoman. In my revamp of the story, Dove is suffering from success. She has a well-paying career, but only because she dedicated her entire youth to her career, and now she is suffering from crippling loneliness since she didn't bother to maintain any relationships in her young adulthood. This lonelyhood would eventually lead to Dove developing depression, anxiety, and overall just leading to her becoming a bit of a mess when it comes to having a social life. I don't have that many problems with her original design, which is shown on the left side of the screen, but it's boring and she also looks way too similar to the way I do in real life. Another problem I do have is because of my old art style, rather than the actual design, Dove looks way too young in her older designs. Dove, as a character, has always been an adult woman, but in some of her earlier designs she looks like a child. In one of my sketchbooks, I found a drawing saying she was 24. I ended up, in the revamp, aging her up into her 30s. On the screen it says 37, but I ended up going with 31. Onto her redesign, my main idea was just to incorporate her new personality, like shy, socially awkward, and a bit pessimistic, into her appearance. This means giving her larger clothes and longer hair to give her something to hide behind. I also gave her darker, more gray tone clothes to reflect the same thing. Other than that, I really only changed her eye color and made her a bit scrawnier, though you can't really tell because of the clothes, and I imagine that she'll forget to eat sometimes when she's working, and over time it's gone to more like extreme lengths, and she'll forget to eat for extended periods of time. A lot of other necessary self-care tasks like sleeping and exercising would be treated this way, leading to Dove not exactly living her best life, and this would be reflected in her physical appearance. I probably should have given her eye bags in her design, but it kind of slipped my mind at the time. If I go back and draw her again, I will give her darker eye bags. In the storyline's revamp, the story would cover her journey trying to develop new relationships while also developing a healthy lifestyle and relationship with herself. I quite like how the redesign turned out, but I will say digital art is not my strong suit, so it could potentially look better on paper, but hey, what can you do? The reason I brought up the fact that magical creatures exist in this universe is because of this character, who drives the entire plot of the story. Echo is an elf that has gotten lost in the big city. Dove comes across her, not knowing she's an elf, and takes her home because Echo isn't in good condition at the time that Dove found her. Once Dove helps her get cleaned up and fed, she does realize that Echo is an elf, and she doesn't really know what to do. Echo is technically a child, but Dove knows she can't go into a human foster care system, and she also doesn't know how to get Echo back to her elf family. With no other choice, Dove decides she's going to take care of Echo until she finds a better solution. Echo's name comes from the fact that she doesn't speak English or any human language. She can, however, echo the sounds and words that humans make in an attempt to communicate, so Dove gave her the nickname. Echo does have a real elven name, but I never actually came up with one, so I'm just going to stick with the nickname for now. After enough time in the story, Echo might be able to pick up on some English, but in the beginning of the story for sure, she kind of just goes off body language, which differs between elves and humans, so that can cause some mix-ups. As for her actual design, I gave her a more human skin tone because for a while she was pink. I don't really remember why I did that. And I did keep the light pink hair and the 2 low buns, but I did end up getting rid of the bangs because I wasn't really vibing with them. Other than that, Echo's design stayed pretty loyal to the original. Her personality would also stay most of the same. She's very quiet and way too trusting of humans. She's very resourceful when it comes to cooking and cleaning, since she knows like elven type tricks for getting stains out of clothes and carpet. But she is very confused by modern human technology, and since she can't really communicate, it takes a lot more work for her to learn things. I gave her a very neutral face, not because she's bored, but because she doesn't really understand humans' need for facial expressions during interaction. I also combined the outfits from 2 of the original designs and gave her like an overall dress. I also used the bandages on her legs from one of the designs, because I imagine that from the first few days she was lost in the human world, she would have gotten quite scratched up. The last thing I pulled from her original designs was the hair clip she used on her bangs, which seemed to be in almost all the drawings I could find of her. You might be able to see in one of my designs that she used to have scales. This was from when I changed her from an elf to a reptile type creature I called a karata back in like 7th grade. I'm gonna keep her as an elf right now, just to fit in with the more fairy tale type creatures in this world. This story would follow Dove trying to take care of Echo while trying to hide the fact that she now has a child from her family, co-workers, and the general population because Dove knows that most people won't be as kind to Echo's species. I'm very happy with how Echo's design turned out. The only thing is that I drew her a bit too tall for her age, considering she is about 6 in human years, but that can be changed with the help of the liquefy tool, so I think it's fine for now. Valentine Mitchell is the last main character in this story. Originally, she was Dove's boss and played just another character for Dove to hide Echo from. In my revamp though, Valentine would be Dove's co-worker. They would be either at similar levels in whatever company they worked at, or Valentine would be like slightly superior to Dove. And she would find out about Echo very quickly, but instead of reporting the elf, Val would start helping Dove with caring for Echo. This would include socializing with her and helping around Dove's apartment. This would also lead to Dove and Val becoming friends and co-parenting Echo. I think if I were to do anything with these characters in the future, I would add more co-workers, and one by one, they would all figure out about Echo and decide to help raise her. The idea of an entire business department raising a magical being without being asked to is very funny to me. Of course, all these people would also befriend Dove and slowly help her to become a better and healthier person. As for her actual design, I wanted to make her look more like a businesswoman, because in most of the drawings I made of her, she never really wore office-appropriate attire. I decided to switch out the dresses I usually drew her in for a blouse and a pair of wide-leg pants, so I could still give her some of her individuality without making her look like she's going to the club. I also gave her back the glasses from her very first design, which were inspired by Midnight's Mask from My Hero Academia, but I gave them a more rectangular shape. As for her hair, I kept the box braids, but I got rid of her weird gravity-defying bangs and I put the rest of it into a bun. Like Dove, I also aged her up a bit. On the screen it says 41, but I changed that to 38 later on. Like Echo, her personality also stayed pretty loyal to the original, but she is very outgoing and compassionate. She can be suave and is much better at the networking parts of business than Dove is. She would also be the one to suggest letting Echo interact with other humans under the supervision, like at the grocery store or at the park, because before, Dove was just trying to keep her entertained at the apartment. I think that in the beginning of the story, Dove would be reluctant to accept Val's help because she thinks she is pitying her. Dove believes Val has everything figured out and is living the perfect life. Over time, Dove would slowly learn that while Val may have friends and be in contact with her family, she isn't close to any of them, and she wants a deeper connection with someone. Eventually, Dove would become that someone, and the two would be able to grow together. Valentine probably has my favorite design out of this group, and the only thing I would change is the color of her blouse and pants. I wish I made them just a bit more vibrant to show off her personality and visually contrast Dove a bit more. This would also show their contrasting personalities, because where Dove only talks when absolutely necessary, Val is a social butterfly and will talk to anyone who listens. They have a very much like Black Cat and Golden Retriever type energy. Here's all the characters side by side, kind of showing their height differences and their color palettes next to each other. Overall, considering I really struggle with digital art, I'm pretty happy with how these turned out. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed the video. If you would be interested in a part 2 where I revamp some other OCs or even create some new characters for this story, let me know. Thank you for watching, and if you made it to the end, you're a trooper. If you have any constructive criticism or advice, I'd love to hear it. Wherever you're at, I hope you have a great day.